Okay, looks like I'm live. I'm going to try to share this first. Copy. Let's share this. There we go. Gonna add some info. I think that's the image. Yep, there it is. I don't know if my YouTube is recording this. Okay, let's see if I go up here. And I'm going to message some folks. And I'm going to double check a few more things before we do anything. Or before I do anything. Let's go to my channel. All right, looks like it's working. Let's go to my Facebook again. So those of you, it's taking me a while to set this up. Be patient. Right, if I could add a little more to the feed. I guess not. All right, I'm gonna copy that. Send this to someone. Send that. Bam. All right. Okay. I think I'm ready to just do my conversation. A conversation with you guys, my subscribers, and whoever's watching right now. Welcome to the stream. So Bakhmut. So yesterday it was announced that Bakhmut has fell, and when I say yesterday, in our time zone, so here on the East Coast, like it was May 19th, but over there in Eastern Europe, it was the 20th. And I did a live stream last night on YouTube. Today I'm using StreamYard, but yeah. So like I did have some doubts. I was thinking maybe this is some kind of exaggeration, but it looks like it's not exaggerated. It's actually fact. Because this morning I woke up and there are more posts about it, and like so, yeah, like a lot of information does come late. Now the Ukrainian side, they're just exaggerating, of course, as usual. I'm not saying exaggerating. They're saying that they're pushing the Russians back now, and of course they're exaggerating. What the Ukrainians are doing when they exaggerate their stories, they're saying that like in a certain location not far from the city, they pushed the Russians back 100 meters, 200 meters, and that's a major shift for them. And yesterday, I've been mentioned this, like 100, 200 meters, that's fine when you're like inside the city, like on the outskirts of the city, that's fine. But when you're on a big front line and you're trying to surround a certain location, 100, 200 meters doesn't mean anything, especially when there's like nobody there. Like when you're in a location where like you have like kind of 20 soldiers guarding a, a useless location, but they're just there just kind of hold something, just to have a presence. And you take, I don't know, like a bunch of artillery fire to those 20 guys, you knock them out, then you have like some vehicles move in, and you say, yeah, we pushed them back. Yeah, yeah, really that much. It's not like a big frontal assaults or anything. Well, it's all assault, but I mean, on a frontline scale, it doesn't mean anything. So, but yeah, so the Ukrainian side, they're basically coping the entire time. Yeah, they're literally spreading. Well, they've always spread propaganda, but they're spreading propaganda this time that they are actually winning. They're not losing, despite losing the city. Like the Ukrainian side, the Ukrainian side claimed they'll never lose the city, and then all of a sudden, they lost the city. We're not actually losing anything. We're just, you know, yeah. So like, yeah, the Ukrainian plan in the Donbass has failed. And it's kind of like Ukraine has been coping since 2014. Ukraine had their civil war in 2014, and prior to the Russian invasion, Ukraine has been claiming, "Oh yeah, Donetsk will fall pretty soon." Donetsk is just constantly the same wave of propaganda. Oh, Donetsk will fall, Lugansk will fall. We're about to capture them 8 years in a row. And then eventually Russia says, you know what, we'll help out the Donbass region. And so, yeah. And what's interesting is that like after Mariupol fell and after like the Russians assisted the DPR and the LPR and they kept advancing in the Donbass region, like many people in Ukraine like still like thought, that Ukrainian soldiers were not far from taking over Donetsk. They're like they thought they were somewhere in Mariupol still. They thought it's all Russian propaganda, but yeah, like or like many Ukrainians still believe that Russians retreated in haste from the Kiev region, despite the fact that Ukraine was basically in panic mode the entire time when Russians were in the Kiev region. They're literally, I don't know, I guess you could say like an hour away from the capital. Um, I think in some locations they're probably even closer. They're probably about 40 minutes away from the capital. So that's that. But Bakhmut updates. So the stream is not letting me use the thumbnail. The StreamYard's kind of disappointed in that. Like, I think I'll do and post a thumbnail where there's a map of the current situation in Bakhmut. And so basically, and on this map, you could see like the forces of the Ukrainian side and the Russian side. And it's just basically a bunch of flags, and each flag depicts a certain military unit. And on the Ukrainian side, you have so many flags just bunched together, like piled on top of each other. There's basically like no breathing room at all. And then you look at the Russian side, and like the Russian flags are just kind of scattered all over the front line. So not just like in Bakhmut. And actually, on that map, they don't show any Russian forces in Bakhmut. So I mean, technically, they're supposed to show Wagner forces on that map, but they're not showing any of that right there. But they do show actual Russian forces outside of Bakhmut across the front line, and you have like a basically a unit here, a unit way down there, and the only sort of grouping you have is more like in the north. But even then, they're not like bunched on top. They're not piled on top of each other. They're not bunched together. They're kind of like a little more spread out, right? There's like breathing space like between all those units. But you look at the Ukrainian side on that same map, and right outside of Bakhmut and all across that front line, you have like the Ukrainian units just all piled on top of each other. There's like no room at all to breathe, and it's just kind of funny how like Russia has always been outnumbered from 2022 up until now, from the start of the invasion and until the current Bakhmut debacle. Basically, Russians were always outnumbered, and basically, it's just interesting how so much damage has been done to the Ukrainian side, while Russia has not been going in full force. Like you have a small force, a tiny force of Russians in Bakhmut. Most not even actual Russian military, just mercenaries, and they've been kind of just going in there, doing their thing, but not with much help from the Russian government. Recently, there have been some kind of arguments between between the mercenary leader and the Russian government, and yeah, but they kind of fixed their disagreements really quick, and of course, still the Wagner group, without much help, was able to just take over Bakhmut on their own, while Ukraine has been like fully sending in like massive amounts of soldiers and tanks into Bakhmut and losing many lives there. Like I think it's safe to say that's this is my theory, this is my opinion, but I think it's probably safe to say that half of Ukraine's army is gone. And like when I say half of it's gone, I'm not saying that they don't have able-bodied men that could be forcibly recruited. I'm saying like basically like the army that Ukraine should be currently having right now, like it's gone. Like half of it is most likely gone, and half of it was sent to Bakhmut. I think it's safe to say that. I think it's safe to make that claim. Just a second, got a quick text got to respond to. Sorry, guys, just a quick text. It's important business related stuff. All right, now I took care of that text message. So yes, so it has been confirmed that Bakhmut has fallen. The Ukrainian side doesn't admit that. They're saying, "Oh, it's propaganda," but the maps don't lie, and plus there were a few Ukrainian videos that are being deleted by the Ukrainian side where you have military personnel on the front line claiming that yes, Bakhmut has fallen. Okay, like there's nothing we can do now, right? Well, they can still fight, but yeah. I also heard a theory it's possible that the next fortress that Ukraine might try to defend, when I say fortress, I'm talking about a city, looks like they might try to make Slavyansk another fortress where they're just going to get slaughtered, another meat grinder. And what's interesting is that a lot of the Ukrainian population is still just coping, and honestly, it's very effeminate too. It's like in 2014, you have so many pro-Russian people come out in the eastern regions, right? And it was clearly obvious that like people in those eastern regions did not want to be part of Ukraine anymore. Then, of course, all those people were suppressed in 2014, and the only people in 2014 that were not easy to suppress were the Donetsk and Lugansk people, and they were able to turn this into a full-scale civil war that lasted 8 years. And so, for like 8 years of suppression, I kind of get it. Yeah, the people, the Kharkiv and Odessa regions, like they were forced to like go into hiding and not show their true support for Russia. But then, when Russia started going into the Kharkiv region, people in the Kharkiv region, like they only started coming out when Russians started to show up. But it's like basically, it's kind of interesting how the people of the Kharkiv region, like they're only brave uh, when the Russians are there, but they're not really so brave when the Ukrainian soldiers are there. It's kind of interesting. It's like, guys, it's like clearly obvious that Ukraine is losing this war. You might as well just come out and try to, I don't know, like come out and protest the Ukrainian government or something. Like because the people of the Kharkiv region, like they don't want to be part of Ukraine, and actually Ukraine is also has been arresting teachers and journalists and people who have had Russian flags when Russians were there in the Kharkiv region. So yeah, so like Ukraine is just coping. Let's see how many more live viewers are on YouTube. Okay, wonder if that'll play. Okay, I think I see myself on YouTube, but yeah, I'm not sure if I like this broadcast tool, StreamYards. Yeah, I think I prefer the standard YouTube live stream. Yeah. Right. Cool. Got one viewer on StreamYard. I still don't know how many viewers I have on YouTube. That'll be interesting to see. All right, let's check out YouTube. Unless YouTube and live stream are merged into one. That's probably what it is. But yeah, I still prefer just the YouTube thing. Right. Yeah, it's been confirmed. Bakhmut has fallen. So yeah, in our time zone is May 19th. That was yesterday, but over there in the local time zone is the 20th, May 20th. So May 20th is the official date. Yesterday, told a friend of mine, "Oh, May 19th, that's the day," but here it was May 19th. Over there was May 20th. So the Earth rotates around the sun. Earth's not flat. So yeah. So Bakhmut's officially fallen, and either Ukraine retreats and just tries to destroy another city with their useless defenses, or they'll start throwing everything that they have and trying to recapture Bakhmut. And I've been like listening to like Ukrainian military experts, and some of what they say makes sense because some of them actually are legitimate experts. The thing is, nobody on their side is really listening to them. Well, they have an audience, but no one in the Ukrainian government is listening to those people because the clown Zelensky probably knows better. So that's that. Zelensky probably thinks Bakhmut is very important for some reason. I have a feeling that someone's feeding this idea into Zelensky's mind Bakhmut is very symbolic. We must hold on to it. And this also kind of, I don't know, slows down any chances for Ukraine to do any counteroffensives, because like it's also like it's a huge demoralizer knowing that Bakhmut has been completely lost to Ukraine. Now, the Ukrainian side will continue seething and coping. They'll talk about some 100, 200 meters somewhere outside the city, and but that's not part. That's not part of the great counteroffensive. Where is this great counteroffensive that everyone's been talking about? You go to because the web browser that I use like automatically has like websites from MSN.com. Now these articles just keep popping up from all these websites, from Newsweek, from 1945, from CNN, and and like Reuters as well, and they're all talking about how Russians are on the run. Russians are on the run, but like they kept talking about this stuff. How Russians are retreating from Bakhmut, and then bam, all of a sudden, Russia controls Bakhmut 100%. Yeah, so whenever I read some big mainstream Western headline where it says Ukraine's winning, Russia's losing, and Russia's retreating from Bakhmut, or Russia is just retreating, I just kind of like shake my head. I'm thinking I don't even take the time to click and read it, because I can't like really deal with the stupidity of such articles, because it like makes no sense. Like it never made sense, because I'm thinking, wait a minute, you can see the maps, like Russia's closing in, and the articles, the mainstream articles, are saying, oh, Russia's running away. Like, you can put two and two together and just realize that mainstream media is lying to you. Unfortunately, a huge portion of the population, they don't understand that here in the West. So, you could talk to some random person on the street, and they'll probably tell you, "Oh yeah, Ukraine's winning. Yeah, Russia is losing to those brave Ukrainians." But those people are probably just reading just the headline as well. But they're reading the headline and they're just taking it at face value. And these are not deep thinkers, and the population here has not been trained to do any critical thinking, any deep thinking at all. So yeah, and so actually when I made the announcement to some folks, yeah, Bakhmut has fallen. There are some folks who are just super skeptical, oh yeah, right, that's just Russian propaganda, blah blah blah. I'm thinking, okay, yeah, but the maps don't lie. So yeah, so it's confirmed, Russia controls Bakhmut, and I do believe that, I do theorize, this is just my theory, and I could be wrong, but I still believe it's safe to say that Ukraine lost half of its military might in Bakhmut. Half of its military strength is in Bakhmut. And what Ukraine is going to do they're probably going to try to replenish the numbers with more recruits. What's interesting is that they conscripted teenagers, teenagers who play Call of Duty, right? People who play online video games, and so they think it's some kind of fun activity. That one guy, he got into some scandal with. Actually, someone sent me a message. Oh, well, someone just informed me that Bakhmut should not be referred to as Bakhmut, but as Artyomovsk, which is true. Originally, it was called Artyomovsk, and only in 2016, by the way, Bakhmut is located in the Donbass region, where the 8-year civil war from 2014-2022 has been taking place. And in 2016, um, the Ukrainian side decided to change the city of Artyomovsk into Bakhmut, like the, and it was kind of more of a, like it's kind of more to, what's interesting is kind of a way to, as a slight towards the rebel side, towards the Donbass rebels, saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to rename the city, and we're going to call it Bakhmut." And I think it's kind of interesting how like the Ukrainian side has been trying to win the hearts and minds of the Donbass people, but at the same time, during those 8 years of civil war, they've been also destroying what the people of Donbass love to hold on to, like their historical knowledge, their love for their ancestral home, right? Like, so what's interesting, I think it's kind of interesting how the Ukrainian government says, "Well, we're going to free the people of Donbass from these rebels right here," right? But the side that was controlled by the Ukrainian government simultaneously would also tell the people in Donbass, "Oh yeah, we're going to enforce our beliefs on you. You know, we're going to force you to love us, and we will, like shove our beliefs down your throats." Yeah. Well, like yeah. So for 8 years, the Ukrainian government has been wondering why can't they just make any progress in Donbass region? Well, it's because nobody wants to be forced to be loved, or nobody wants your forced love upon them. They want your love to be mutual, with mutual respect. Yeah, so in 2016, Artyomovsk became Bakhmut. Of course, there's some further history going back to, I think, the 1700s, where apparently Serbian settlers in Russia settled a town called Slaviana Serbia or Slaviana Serbsk or something. It, but yeah, it's something Serbia, and like and so there was a small Serbian population there, but I guess they all just kind of intermarried, interbreeded, whatever the word is, and yeah, and so through time it changed. I don't know when the actual name change happened. I know someone pointed that out to me, but I don't know what year the name change went to Artyomovsk, but I think if I'm not mistaken, it became Artyomovsk in the Soviet era, and then it just remained Artyomovsk. And then the Civil War happened in 2014, and Ukraine decided to call it Bakhmut. And I don't know what the origins are for Bakhmut, so but yeah, but like Ukraine has been like trying to anger the rebels by telling them, "Oh, we want to we want to unify with the Donbass people, but we're also going to destroy the history of the regional history of the Donbass people as well as we do this. We'll force them to love us. We'll force them to love Ukraine." Well, didn't work out that much. It didn't work out that well because 8 years of civil war, and then Russia steps in, and you get what you get. Now Russia is now in Bakhmut controlling it, and so, and actually even before Russia started to get into Bakhmut, already many bloggers would refer to it as Artyomovsk, and then they'll put Bakhmut in parentheses. But yeah, it's possible that Bakhmut might get a name change again, and it might go back to being called Artyomovsk, the way it was called before 2016. So we'll see. Like it might get a name change, might not. I don't know. But yeah, it's officially confirmed. Bakhmut is 100%, or at least like 99% under Russian control. Like, although I did tell someone that yeah, like you guys control a city like 100% in order to claim it, but I'd say 99% is good enough. So I remember I was observing a map, and like in this map, literally on the like southwestern fringes of the city, there's like a massage parlor. I'm like, ooh, I hope that massage parlor is fine. Yeah, because I go to a chiropractor sometimes, so it kind of feels good to work on the back. And so plus sometimes I go to massage as well. And so yeah, like I'm thinking, oh no, that massage parlor. I hope it's okay. Because maybe the soldiers might need it. Yeah, I just went full screen on my on my monitor. Actually, looks a lot better now. So okay, I want to show you guys the map slides. My computer. Okay, I'm going to try to see if I can show you the map. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Oh, I think I know what's going on. It's not letting me show images, but actual slides. Okay, pictures. Okay, well that's not gonna work. Yeah, because I really want to show you guys that map that I was talking about. I can't find it. If I share my screen. Well, can't find that. I can't find that map at the moment. That's fine. Well, I have the map saved on my computer. I just can't, for some reason, won't let me upload it onto the screen. But yeah, that map just clearly shows how the Ukrainian military, they're not really interested in any true strategy or tactics. They're just interested in going in full force, throw everything you have in this one location. And then the Russian military, their logic is, let's have like a couple soldiers here and there. Okay, let's send like 100 guys there. They have artillery support from a distance, so they can always contact them. Good luck. And the Russians end up always winning. All right, window, entire screen. All right, I think I might be able to show you guys the map. It's right here. I don't know if you guys can see it. But that's the map right here. Can I see myself? Okay. Right there's the map. So, yeah, you can clearly see how the Russians are more spread out in this section. Proskievka or Paraskievka, Krasnogora, Solidar right here. I mentioned Solidar yesterday, right? And then you have this front line. So you have like a unit right here. You got like you can barely see it, but it's right there. And then so I'm just going to assume that this unit is spread out and their job is kind of control this whole area. This unit, same thing here. And these guys, these units, I guess they have certain battalions, companies spread out to this region. Opitna, there's probably a garrison right here. This is Bakhmut. Now you don't see any official Russian flags in the Bakhmut area right here, and that's probably because Wagner controls all this. So Wagner, or Wagner, however you want to say it, but the Wagner they control Bakhmut right here. If you guys can see my mouse, and so there's that. Then you have the front line just extending right here all the way down, and you have like look at this Russian flag. So this Russian flag right here probably represents some sort of division, regiment. They're probably scattered around. They probably have smaller companies guarding little areas around here, and and like, and then the Ukrainian side. Look at this Ukrainian side. All of these units are just bunched in together, and like it's just overcrowded, and yet they're facing so much damage. They're constantly being destroyed. Now it's just gonna be harder for them because they had a hard time holding Bakhmut. Like right here, if you just look at my mouse, like a month ago, like this downtown area, the center right here, was held by both sides. So Russians held this part of downtown, the Ukrainians held this part of downtown, and from what I understood is that like Russians would kind of continue to try to take over some of these areas right here, right? And they'll kind of have like a little bit of focus. Wagner will kind of slowly kind of move like a couple meters here, a couple meters there, while the Ukrainian military might, like what it seemed like it was doing, like they're trying to use all their might, pushing it into like this area right here, like every unit they had, every I don't know battalion, regiment, I don't know, like whatever they used, that they try to. It seemed like they tried to push them into like the downtown area, and the Russians have artillery. They just bomb the crap out of this little neck right here, this bottleneck, I guess, and then eventually, like like Wagner will just keep closing in. They'll take over this building right here. They'll take over a building right here. Yeah, and then like up until today, yeah, well, yeah, up until today, yeah, Wagner officially controls the whole city of Bakhmut, and then you have all these other regular Russian troops not really doing much work. Um, yeah, and plus Ukraine has a lot of work to do because they have to look at Soldar. If Ukraine was smart, like they would not be so crazy about Bakhmut the entire time. They would have a long time ago. Let's say when the Ukrainians controlled 80% of Bakhmut, when they were like right here, right, and then like they should realize, okay, they should have realized, okay, Russians are getting pretty strong here. Okay, let's try to figure something out. And plus, the Russians, when they were like right here, like on the like controlling only 20% of the city, they simultaneously did not go directly into Bakhmut, right? They would kind of go right here to Paraskevka, to Krasnogorod. They would kind of go in these regions first, cut off the supply lines for the Ukrainians, cut off any communications for the Ukrainians, and then they'll kind of go focus. Then they'll focus on these parts of the cities. Like I think there's a salt mine right here in this part of Bakhmut, and then after the Russians will take over these towns, they'll go further down right here, and yeah, and so Ukraine should have been concentrating more, like in this area and in the south. And what they should have done, they probably should have been smart about this and not panic. Instead, they just decided Bakhmut's a new fortress. We must defend it. And so they just sent their entire might into this little city, not really worth much. What they could have done, they could have like slightly like the soldiers that were in the city, they could have sent some reinforcements here, but then what they could have done is try to do some kind of maneuvering in this region, try to kind of push the Russians across Bora and the Soledar, right? Kind of relieve the pressure from the Bakhmut defenders, like relieve some of the pressure for the Bakhmut defenders. And right here, too, in the south, like try to focus on Kurdyumovka. See where my mouse is? Try to focus on the Kurdyumovka area. That could have been something that would have given some relief. But instead, Ukraine just kept focusing and focusing on mostly on just controlling the city. And here's like all the routes and like the roads. You can't really see it because of the flags, but you have like these roads leading to the city. And, like the Ukrainians decided to create this road of life, and they would just send troops to reinforce the city. and like they'll just hide in buildings. Well, buildings can't be destroyed eventually. Like you can't hold on to a building for too long. Like you could be there for like maybe like a week, and that's it, and then get out. Like unless that building has special tunnels that connect to other buildings, but yeah, um, you can't really just rely on holding a building for a while and then don't expect it to up or something, or just getting taken over by your enemies because you could run out of ammo and food. And so Ukraine kind of just did not think that way. They focused so much on this area all the entire time, while like Wagner and Russian troops would kind of focus on the outskirts right here, and then they'll focus on taking over Bakhmut, and that's what happens. Yeah, and look, they're kind of repeating the same thing. It looks like they're all gathered right here, and why? Why are they gathered here? Just makes no sense. Like you should have like you should spread that out. You should spread all this out, and so a lot of these actually should be in reserves, like further back. And some of these guys should kind of reinforce these units right here and focus on Kurdyumivka. Like if I was the Ukrainian commander, I would try to get. If I was trying to get out of the situation, I would focus on Kurdyumivka and try to do some kind of distraction or some kind of maneuvering. But the Ukrainians, they don't think this way. So yeah, that's the map that I want to show you. So I'm going to stop sharing. Right, so it looks like I stopped sharing with you guys. Right, there's some comments. Show the chat. But, well, I'm here now. Right, I think every unit is listed is supposed to be a brigade. Okay, it might be a brigade. Because I believe, according to our American definition, I believe a brigade is supposed to be bigger than a division, right? I think so, yeah. So, because it's a platoon, company, battalion, regiment, division, then brigade. But then from what I understand, like brigades and divisions can be kind of interchangeable in their definitions, right? So there's that. But yeah, but a brigade is definitely like more than 2 regiments. So yeah, that's what it looks like. It looks like Ukraine is sending in all these brigades. As my friend mentioned, all these brigades are going into Bakhmut. They're all piled on top of each other, while Russians have like these units that are all spread out. And of course, Russians have artillery as well and some drones. Also, Russians have been using some kind of interesting form of kamikaze drones. It seems like apparently some of these drones like they'll have a camera, but then like as soon as they get close enough to the enemy, they just kind of go full speed and they just like crash right into their enemies. And then there's some kamikaze land drone too, there's like this drone on the ground, and like it just spotted some Ukrainian and then just crashed into him and then just blew up, like lost connection. But like that's what it seems like. Russians are probably inventing some kind of new suicidal drones. All right. Brigade is roughly 1/3 to 1/2 division. A brigade is essentially a slightly larger regiment. Divisions are made up of 2 to 5 regiments, brigades. Okay. Yeah, so like and I believe like 2 or 3 divisions is a corps, and I believe that 2 corps is already 1 army, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's correct. I believe 2 corps is an army. For example, from what I understand, the Marines, the few, the proud, the reason why there's so few is because they're an actual corps, a Marine Corps. There is no Marine Army. So there's a Marine Corps, right, because it's their actual size. That's from what I understand. So, like, that's probably why they're still called the Marine Corps. Okay. So, yeah. So I'm assuming that you guys saw the map that I showed you, because Darth Kalhuna, I'm sure you saw it, right? Yeah, I'm still not sure if I like this StreamYard right here because I'm used to the YouTube thing. I probably just need to use it more often, probably to get used to it. Right. Any more new comments? Nope. Same comments. So, what else do you guys think is going to happen in Ukraine? Oh, the Marine Corps is essentially a name at this point. With the numbers they have now, the Marines would make up roughly 3 corps. Okay, so essentially they're basically an army, right? Like based on their size, because I believe 2 corps is already an army. So yeah, so the Marines are basically just a Marine Corps in name. But we should also consider that the military has been recruiting just about anybody at this point. I would not be surprised if in a couple of months they're going to start recruiting felons. I think it's kind of ironic. I think it will be ironic that our government will start recruiting literal felons into the military, but then criticize Russia for allowing the Wagner Group to recruit prisoners to, to fight. And I believe the Ukrainians will run out of manpower within a year to be effective. True, that's possible. It also depends on how early the West stops supplying Ukraine too. I think it's also something to do with arms, because if you have a lot of arms coming in, then you'll find men who will use those arms. But I do believe that Ukraine, because I mentioned this earlier, probably, I don't know, 20 minutes ago. I do believe that it's possible to say that Ukraine lost half of its military in Bakhmut, like nowhere else, like from the beginning of the war, right? From fighting in Mariupol, from fighting in the Kharkiv region, the Kiev region. I believe Bakhmut was the place where just half their military might just disappeared right there. The West can give Ukraine all the arms in the world, but if there's no one to man them, the weapons won't matter. True. I just think that Ukraine could also be desperate, and they'll probably find someone to man those weapons too, if they have to, if they feel like. Well, what's interesting is that there's lots of videos of Ukrainian people just running away from the conscription officers. I don't want to call them recruitment officers because they're not volunteers; they're conscripts, and so a lot of these officers, they've been going door to door, giving people notices saying, "Oh, you're conscripted to join the military. Arrive at this place at a certain time," and then they're really desperate now. They're going basically just to random guys, to any random dude they see on the street. They'll say, "You, sir, show me your ID." Cool. They write it down. They write down all their information on a piece of paper, and then they say, "Here you go. Here's this piece of paper saying you have to arrive at this station at a certain time." And then there's some guys who are just being grabbed off the streets. Like it's gotten to the point where the soldiers would be like, "Hey, man, like we're grabbing you." And like I saw a video where this one guy tried to escape on his motorcycle, and like he was not lucky because one of the Ukrainian soldiers kind of like grabbed him, like threw him off the bike. But yeah, like the guy didn't go fast enough on his motorcycle. Like he did not have enough like space. So also, about 17% of our active army and 25% of our reserve component personnel are overweight. Viktor Orban hates Zelensky for forcibly conscripting ethnic Hungarians from Carpathia right now. That's true, actually. Yeah. Going back to the beginning of the Ukrainian civil war in 2014, in the Carpathias, the Carpathian people. And what's interesting, the Carpathians themselves are diverse too. You have the Hungarians, and then you have also the Rusenes, who are actually Russians, right? And they actually identify more with Russia than with Ukraine, which also kind of does not fit the Ukraine existed forever narrative. But the Rusenes and other people living in the Carpathia region, they tried to do their own kind of separation. Like they had some local city councils gather and say that they are trying to create their own republics, but it kind of did not go anywhere after that. They just kind of did some protests, did some flag waving, and that's it. But yeah, lots of those videos of men being grabbed the streets either come from the Russian or Hungarian areas of Ukraine. I don't know. Like actually, even the pro like Ukrainian side, like a lot of them don't really want to fight. Like they want to fight on the internet, but like even in the West, like here, what's interesting, I remember Eastern Ukrainians telling me that Western Ukrainians love to talk a lot of smack. They love to talk a lot of crap. And like they like they have a lazy lifestyle in the West, right? In Western Ukraine, and of course, not everyone in Western Ukraine is lazy. Of course not, but it's just like this this trait that they have that like everybody owes them something, and while in Eastern Ukraine, people have been kind of more like very hardworking, very tough, especially in the Donbass. Donbass has basically coal miners. People there are coal miners, um, and then they're very industrial, especially in the east. They're very industrial people, so they're very hardworking. And people in Western Ukraine have always just had this like weird hatred for the people in Eastern Ukraine, and like every Eastern Ukrainian would tell me that like especially in Donetsk, whenever Western Ukrainians would visit like a restaurant or a cafe in Donetsk, they'll be treated very nicely, very politely, and they could tell by their accent or by the fact that they're speaking Ukrainian. And by the way, Western Ukrainian, the dialects of Western Ukrainian does not necessarily match the dialects of mainstream Ukrainian too, the proper kind of the proper educated form of Ukrainian. So that's one way you can spot a Western Ukrainian, especially when he speaks in some kind of uneducated form of Ukrainian. But basically, some of these Western Ukrainians, they'll go to Donetsk, Lugansk, and they'll go to the local cafes and shops. They'll be treated very nicely with respect, with like yeah, like the way a guest should always be respected. But then whenever someone from Donetsk would go all the way to Lviv, like the the heart of Ukrainian so-called nationalism, right? And they'll go to, and the Donetsk residents will go to Lviv to the cafes or restaurants over there. It will be the opposite treatment. The waiters and the cashiers will be like, oh, filthy barbarian, what are you doing here in the civilized world? You know, we're all about democracy, right? We're better than you because you're a bunch of dirty rednecks. Um, yeah, and so and this is not just like one person from eastern Ukraine, or this is not one person from the Donetsk region telling me this. These are like multiple people saying that this happened many times. They'll go on vacation to Western Ukraine, and all the local employees would just be a bunch of a-holes. While in the Donetsk region, where people are more rough and tough, they'll still have that courtesy. They'll still have that professionalism. They'll have that professional attitude towards all their guests, and especially if they're from Western Ukraine. And yeah, and such a cultural divide basically triggered the civil war in Ukraine. Um, so like it wasn't just a bunch of foolish nonsense Donetsk people just wanting to be foolishly part of Russia. Well, not say foolishly in the eyes of Western Ukraine, but basically it wasn't just that. It was basically just boiling. It was at this boiling point where like the temperature just burst, and it was released in the Maidan situation in Kiev, and so yeah. But what I'm trying to say here is that in Western Ukraine, they do have men who are being recruited and being forced to fight, but they don't really want to fight because they want to fight on the internet. They want to do the flag waving and the nightly marches at nighttime, um, in their own cities. They don't really want to go to the front lines, because culturally, like the stereotype kind of just like this huge stereotype that people in Western Ukraine are lazy, and it just kind of fits the bill. Like um, the Western Ukrainians, for example, they were all for joining the European Union because like uh, they already kind of lived in I don't know, in a messy area, in a messy country, right? So then they assumed that if they joined the EU, that life would just automatically be better. They assumed that once they join the EU, that they'll have the same pensions, the same retirement plans as people in the EU have. And these people don't realize, this is not how politics work. Look at Bulgaria; they're part of the EU. Look at their country; disgusting, right? Look at Italy; Italy's part of the EU. What's so great about Italy? You have all these migrants, coming over, destroying the economy. um, and the only countries that kind of benefited from the EU were basically France and Germany. Of course, the migrant crisis followed in 2014, 2015 ruined all that, but still, it was only the French and Germans that truly were the beneficiaries of the European Union. Yeah, Eastern European countries who were members of the EU, they did not really get any benefits from the EU. Stereotypes exist for a reason. There are natural traits shared in the blood of a people. Yeah, true story. But yeah, a lot of Western Ukrainians just were raised on the idea that everything's owed to them, that they are great Ukrainians, that the stupid Muscovites always oppressed us, right? And we deserve all the best, right? Kind of sounds like BLM, you know. And to be fair, that's kind of what it is, It's the Eastern European version of BLM. So yeah. Now, of course, there are many pro-EU folks in Eastern Ukraine as well, but they were a minority. And in Western Ukraine, there are some pro-Russia folks in Western Ukraine. To some people's surprise, yes, they secretly exist. Um, but yeah, I think I'm getting messages from somewhere else too. Okay. Oh, okay, that's not important. Okay. All right. Looks like folks on Facebook somewhere notice live. Yeah, but um, yeah, so people in Ukraine, like they're forced to fight too. In Western Ukraine, they're being forced to fight. But like I'll not be surprised if some of those people in those videos are also from Western Ukraine, because they don't really want to go to war. They just want to talk crap all the time. Like they're only safe behind their own computers. And yes, of course, in Eastern Ukraine, some people avoid the recruiters as well. Well, yeah, I don't think recruiter is a good term. I think a conscription officer, like I think that'll be a good label. But yeah, the Hungarian folks, they're an ethnic minority in the Carpathian region, and so what's interesting, I remember Zelensky when he was running for president to replace Poroshenko. Zelensky is the one who promised to end the civil war and to bring peace, and he said it doesn't matter what language you speak. Uh, in his like presidential like New Year's video that he made, I think it was 2019, I believe. Yeah, Zelensky made a New Year's video, and it was not like the typical standard Putin video where he's just standing in front of a green screen, does pre-recorded message, "Hurrah, Russia, Russia Federation!" Yeah, right, and it's over. Right, it's the typical standard. Congratulations, everybody, we survived this year. Right. Zelensky did this creative, like, cause he's a show artist. He's an actor. He's a clown. So uh, his New Year's video was different because Poroshenko tried to kind of imitate Putin in a way where it's kind of he's staying in front of a green screen, but there's like um, Kiev in the background, and so Zelensky kind of spiced things up. He made it creative. He even brought people from his team to say a few words, and they would record other Ukrainian citizens talking. Some of them will talk in Ukrainian, some will talk in Russian, and Zelensky some of the words that he used were in Hungarian. Like I think he said "Happy New Year's" in the Hungarian language, and like plus he listed off all the ethnic minorities that lived in Ukraine too in this video, saying we have these people, we're all children of Ukraine, we're all Ukrainian citizens. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, like before the Russian invasion, Zelensky starts basically slowly persecuting people that are considered minorities, right? Which is not consistent with his original message of love and peace. And yeah, so um, and yeah, so the ethnic Hungarians, they see this, they like plus they really don't really have they don't really care, you could say, about the whole situation in Donbass for 8 years, right? They really did not have much to do with it, because they're still a minority. So let's say if Russians completely took over Ukraine, or let's say Russians never invaded Ukraine, but the Donbass rebels would have went further. They would have went all the way to the Carpathias, right? The Hungarian people still would have been an ethnic minority, though. And thing is, what is it that they would have been offered by the rebels too? So because the Donbass rebels were mostly focused on themselves at the moment. So yeah, but one thing for sure is that the Donbass rebels definitely would not have promoted persecution of Hungarians, unlike Zelensky. And so if Russia takes over all of Ukraine, including that western region, it's most likely that the Hungarians will basically be pretty safe. Yeah, so and it seems like I think Viktor Orban understands this. He probably understands that Hungarians living in Ukraine would have a better chance of being left alone under Russia than under Ukraine as it is. So, yeah. Also, Viktor Orban, he definitely doesn't like Ukraine, especially when Ukraine's trying to cut off all energy supplies into Poland and Hungary and the Czech Republic. Zelensky's even suggested to destroy the Druzhba pipeline. By the way, Druzhba means friendship. But the Druzhba pipeline, Zelensky even offered to blow that up. And Viktor Orban's totally not on board with this. He goes, no, okay, that's too many pipelines. You're going too far now. But yeah, so Viktor Orban, he understands this. Also, Viktor Orban, he's also a fan of Trump. Just kind of mentioned Trump. Trump he believes that had he been president, there would not be any war in Ukraine, which is true. But the way it would have been prevented would not have been Trump storming into Putin's office and slamming the table, saying, "You better not move in there." No, Trump, like a businessman, would have just simply had a simple conversation with Putin. Would have said, "Let's make a deal." He wrote Art of the Deal, but most likely Trump would have actually slammed his fist on Zelensky's desk. He probably would have told him, "Okay, Zelensky, listen, shut up. Okay, you're not joining NATO. We're not going to let you do that. Okay, make a deal with Russia. Just if only Hungary would invade from the west, or yes, if Hungary would invade Ukraine from the west, yes, for sure." But just real quick to say that Trump would have told Zelensky, "Listen, make a deal with Russia. Give them the Donbass, right? We'll still, offer you money and protections, but also at the same time make a deal with Russia. You're not joining NATO, right?" And I'm pretty sure Russia and Trump would have made a deal that would have kind of benefited both sides, and Ukraine would have not have been at war. I think Russia would have just kept the Donbass region for themselves, and that would have Trump would have prevented Ukraine from joining NATO. So in that sense, yes, I think Trump would have prevented the war. But the boomers, they assume that if Trump was president, he would be in there being tough with Putin. No, Trump's not like that. Behind closed doors, Trump would have made a calm deal. But Trump, he only talks tough when he's doing his rallies. Yeah, I'm going to show them who's boss. And this is what Trump does. He'll talk to a politician behind closed doors, make a friendly deal with them. Then after the conversation's over, a couple days later, he'll go do his rally and say, "Yeah, I sure showed them. Yeah, I told them his boss." Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the boomers they think that's how diplomacy works. Yeah, but yeah, you're but you're right, Darth Kilhoun. If Hungary attacked from the west, yeah, the war would have been over. Although technically still, that map I showed you guys, right? The reason why things are the way they are on that map is because it's most likely that it's because Russia has not officially declared war in Ukraine. It's a special military operation. Russia is theoretically still not at war with Ukraine. There is no official declaration of war. And I believe Ukraine itself did not declare war either. And so if Russia was actually at war, that changes a lot in their battle doctrine, a lot. And so Russia probably, if Russia was actually at war with Ukraine officially on paper, then there would have been a lot more damage done to Ukraine itself, and the war would have been over a long time ago. But Russia has turned this into a special military operation, and you could see the map, right? That's just one example, right? But like you have the Russia's outnumbered. You have outnumbered Russian troops doing lots of damage to the not just the military. We've already basically understand that like the Ukrainian military has been um, damaged pretty hard. It's also it's having a damaging effect on the Ukrainian economy. The Ukrainian economy is only getting worse and worse and worse. The only people that are still doing fine in Ukraine are the politicians in Kiev, but and of course the rich elites of Ukraine. I saw a video where this was like late summer, end of summertime. You have basically Ukrainian soldiers fighting on the front lines. And then there's these young, able-bodied men, lots of them, lots of able-bodied men hanging around in this very nice elitist swimming pool area somewhere in the Kiev region, having fun and they're hanging out with women who are like half naked, like they're showing how like these men are massaging these women with oils and vice versa, and they're partying it up, right? This is happening like in the Kiev region somewhere in the summertime, while at the same time you have poor Ukrainians on the front lines fighting, fighting the Russians on the front lines, while you have the children of the elites having a good time. Like their country's basically being invaded, and their elites, the elite children, are just celebrating. Ooh, yeah, we're having a good time. So they're not worried. They don't care. Um, at any moment, like if Russia fully takes on Kiev, let's say, half of them will probably stay and just continue enjoying their life, or half of them would probably just go to the West. And like they already own homes in Florida, Miami. They have homes in Los Angeles, New York. So they don't care. They have houses in Germany and London and Paris, like Egypt, Turkey, Dubai. Like, do you think they really care about what their citizens really think? And yeah, so yeah, but still, and I'm thinking Ukrainians are fighting for these people too. Like these are the people you're defending. You're out there on the front line, right? These people, like, they don't care about you. Like you're basically dying to protect these young folk, these young people who are like basically taking part in degeneracy out in the open. So it's just kind of weird how like even now, like the propaganda in Ukraine is pretty hard though. Like it's not like that people are just straight up dumb. Like it's just for 8 years, for prior to the Russian invasion, 8 years in a row, this propaganda has been hitting the airways. It's been like brainwashing people, right? And so for 8 years in a row, people were believing that the people in Donetsk are living under the tyrannical Donbass leadership, under how like life is so bad. In a way, it was bad in Donbass. In many ways, it was, but not necessarily because of the rebel leadership. It was mostly because of the Ukrainian government, right? Basically, turning off water supplies so people may not have water, blowing up electrical stations so people won't have electricity, because the Ukrainian government was hoping that they would do actual damage to civilian infrastructure, that the people of Donbass would simply just overthrow the Donbass government and just welcome Ukraine back with open arms. And Ukraine also did the same thing in Crimea. Like they literally cut off the water supply for Crimea. That's one of the reasons why the bridge was necessary. That Crimean bridge that connected that connected Crimea and Russia. And it's a historical moment, because not during the Tsarist era, not during the Soviet era, like there was no like the idea of building a bridge did not really exist, because, well, because all the food, all the supplies came in from the land, from the connection of the peninsula with the land. So like there's like no need for this bridge, right? Because the Ukrainian land is fertile, and they could always send supplies to Crimea, and yeah, so there was no necessity for this bridge. But then when Ukraine assumed that if they cut off the water supplies for the Crimean people, that they would just overthrow the Russian government over there, and they would demand that Ukraine accept them back. Instead, the people of Crimea just simply hated Ukraine even more. They're saying, "Really, you don't consider us human beings? You're violating our human rights. Like you're basically like you say you love us, but then you cut off our water supplies, right? And now we're going to suffer." And so, um, like, but luckily, the Russian government has already been planning on building a bridge before that. So, yeah, and they built the bridge, and now, like from Russia to Crimea, you have this perfect bridge, and where supplies go in and out. So, yeah, and what's funny is that like the Ukrainians keep telling people of Crimea how they're going to liberate them. They want to rescue them from Russia. But at the same time, they're doing everything they can to make the Ukrainians hate them by trying to cut off their food supplies, their food, and everything, all their resources. They're trying to cut them off from resources. Then they expect that the people of Crimea will just miss them and realize that, yes, you guys were right. Russia was wrong. No, they'll simply just love Russia even more. Pathetic losers. That's what they are. That's what the Ukrainian government is, a bunch of morons. Well, I would not necessarily say all of them morons. A lot of them know what they're doing. They just pretend to be stupid. But yeah, and so recently there was an attack on the bridge. There were several attacks on the bridge. There was one, 6 months ago, where they blew it up, and then Russians kind of fixed it really quick, and the Ukrainians were so angry. Like, how is it? Like, why? Why are they fixing this bridge? Well, maybe it's because Russians care for the people of Crimea, or at least trying to make it seem like they care, right? They actually rebuilt the bridge where the people of Crimea won't go hungry. They may have resources coming in and out. And then recently, again, there was, I think, another attempt to blow up the bridge, but it failed. So, yeah. Okay, this live stream has been going on for like an hour, 17 minutes. I originally just wanted to kind of mostly talk about Bakhmut, but I guess there's not much to be said at the moment because, yeah, it's been confirmed. It's been confirmed 100%. Yesterday, I was still kind of skeptical when I made my live stream video, but today, yeah, it's confirmed. That Bakhmut is under Ukrainian control. And I think maybe today or tomorrow I'll try to watch some more of the Ukrainian experts from the Ukrainian side and try to see what they're saying, because I listen to what they say just to kind of like get their perspective. And a lot of what they say is just really dumb. So yeah, it's not necessarily dumb. It's logically sounds correct, but like whenever they talk, they sound logical, they sound reasonable, but at the same time, just coping and seething. Because everything that they try to implement is never implemented in reality. Like, everything they dream about is never a reality. It doesn't come true. And I was talking about Western Ukraine earlier. Yeah, it's the true stereotype. They're just lazy, especially Western Ukraine. It's a lazy people who want who wants all the good stuff. They want the Western European cafes and lattes and all this stuff, but they think that's just going to be handed to them. And then when they get conscripted, oh no, I have to go to war? What? I have to fight for this? Oh, come on. Actually, many of the Western Ukrainian men went on those trains. By the way, like those trains where they had the refugees in the initial phase of the war, when like so many refugees escaping Ukraine. What was this, like 2022 last year in February and March? You had lots of trains going to Europe, Western Europe, and a lot of them were not just women and children. It was mostly like well, not mostly, but a lot of it was men. It was mostly women and children, but you had a lot of men too, and a lot of these men were from Western Ukraine. And in Ireland, I saw it like a month ago. I saw a video from Ireland where the local Irish people were angry at the Irish government for accepting Ukrainian refugees, and the Ukrainian refugees will commit like I guess like misdemeanors, minor infractions, and become a nuisance for the local population. And the local authorities don't do anything about it. They just kind of it's kind of like the same thing in Germany with the Germany and France with the whole like Middle Eastern criminals. It's the same thing in England too. You have Middle Eastern criminals committing crimes, and the local population who complains about it gets in trouble for complaining about this. And it's kind of the same thing in Ireland with the Ukrainian migrants who are men, who are able-bodied men who are not on the front lines defending their country. Yeah. Um, and where was I going with this? Yeah, it just proves how lazy the Western Ukrainians truly are. And by the way, regarding those refugees escaping, well, many Ukrainians. Here's the thing: many Ukrainians who love to talk a lot of crap. At the same time, always wanted to leave Ukraine. They always will complain how Ukraine is poor, how especially women, and it's mostly the women who would always talk about how Ukraine is poor and how they love visiting other countries, like all these rich countries. Uh, like well, rich compared to Ukraine, let's say. And so Switzerland, Italy, Germany, Dubai, right? Turkey, right? All these fun countries for the Ukrainian women. And then like they dread when their vacation expires, they have to go back to Ukraine and they're working again, and they feel like such ugly women, and they want to kind of live like a good life somewhere else in a different country. So this war basically provided an opportunity for these uh, people to just escape Ukraine and get the life that they wanted for free. Without, and what's interesting, many diaspora Russians living in in the West before the war, there are many diaspora Russians who've been living in Germany since the 1990s, and in England, and in other countries, right? And actually, the Baltic countries too, because Baltic countries they accepted migrants from Ukraine as well. And I remember in Lithuania, some Ukrainian women spat on the road or no, on the streets, and the Lithuanians are saying, "Hey, what are you doing? These are our streets. You're not supposed to be spitting on them. We got to keep these streets clean, maintained. What are you doing?" And she's like pulling out her passport. I'm from Ukraine. I'm from Ukraine. You're not supposed to bother me. And it's kind of funny how she's spitting on the street right there, and the local Lithuanians are telling her, "Hey, don't spit," and but we'll call the cops. You're committing a vandalism, right? And the police officer is saying, "Hey, woman, what are you doing? Like you're not supposed to be spitting on the street here." And she's pulling out her passport. "No, I'm from Ukraine. You cannot touch me. I'm untouchable." And this mentality kind of has been going over to the Ukrainian refugees and that have been living in Germany and England, and and it's just sickening how lazy these people truly are. But what's interesting is that Ukraine's biggest patriots are not even in Ukraine. Ukraine's greatest patriots live here in Canada and the United States. Canada and the United States is the hub of Ukrainian patriotism. Like seriously, like the greatest Ukrainian warriors are right here. They're right here. Like they're not on the front lines over there. Like Ukraine's biggest patriots are all right here. Yeah, because I would ask them these Ukrainians. I'm thinking, okay, well, why don't you just go defend Ukraine? You know, like also, why did you leave? I get if you leave to eventually come back. Like you make some money here, you become a little bit wealthy, then you go back to Ukraine and you start helping your people. You start bringing in ideas that you've learned abroad, and you start bringing in those ideas. You start fixing the country, but instead, they're here. They're not fixing the country they love so much. Like they might send in some donations, but some of those donations get pocketed. Like they're in someone's pockets. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess I'm done with my rant. So yes, just uh, before I leave, just to confirm one more time, it's official. Bakhmut has fallen. Ukraine has lost Bakhmut, and so Bakhmut is now under Russian control. Confirmed. That's a fact. And I'll see you guys later. Also, like, share, subscribe. Go to patreon.com/altmonarchist. Have a blessed day, night, whatever time it is. God bless.